So I want you to imagine doing everything perfectly right for your health. Like, you acknowledge there's a problem, you finally seek professional help, which is hard enough, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a huge hurdle.
Right. And then you get the formal diagnosis, you secure a doctor's prescription, you hold that piece of paper in your hand, and you go to the pharmacy.
The finish line.
Or so you think.
Exactly, the finish line.
Right.
But then you hit a brick wall at the very last step. The pharmacist looks at you and says, the shelves are just empty. And they have no idea when they'll have it again.
It's just devastating. And it's a reality for so many people right now.
It really is. And that's exactly what we're tackling in today's deep dive. We're looking at a specific excerpt from a Friday Digital article titled Prescribed But No Medicine: The Abnormal Situation of ADHD Medication, Concerta Shortage, Background, and Risks.
Which is quite the title. It really lays it all out there. It really does. And our mission today is to essentially unpack this one snippet. We want to understand the cascading failures in the medical supply chain here, the root cause that the article points out, and honestly, the profound risks to patients when a daily treatment is just suddenly taken away.
Yeah, because this tiny snippet of text reveals this nationwide structural issue. It's not just a localized, a truck broke down kind of problem.
Right, right. So let's unhack this step by step. Let's look at the exact journey a patient takes and where exactly the system is just completely breaking down.
Sure. So the article maps out the intended medical journey, right?
Hmm.
Diagnosis, prescription, pharmacy. But then it drops this heavy phrase, calling the inability to get this essential medicine an abnormal situation occurring nationwide.
Yeah, that phrase stuck out to me too, abnormal situation.
In Japanese, the text uses the phrase iju jitai. And in a medical supply chain context, that is a heavy, heavy term.
And here's where I want to push back a little bit. Why call it abnormal? I mean, we've all lived through the last few years. Supply chains break all the time, right?
Oh, for sure. We've seen it with everything from computer chips to toilet paper.
Exactly. So aren't we just taking for granted that a prescription automatically equals medication? Why is this specific shortage flagged as an abnormal situation?
Well, it comes down to the difference between consumer goods and physiological necessities. With consumer goods, a shortage is an inconvenience. You wait a few months for a car, right?
Yeah, or you just buy a different brand of paper towels.
Right. But the medical supply chain is intentionally built with extreme redundancies. It's heavily regulated precisely to avoid this kind of volatility. So when a widely used medication simply vanishes nationwide, it means multiple fail-safes. The forecasting, the manufacturing buffers, the strategic reserves, they all failed at the same time.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a hiccup, it's a total systemic collapse.
Exactly. And think about the psychological weight of that broken chain for the patient. Getting an ADHD diagnosis as an adult usually means jumping through so many hoops.
Oh, the evaluations, the specialist referrals, the wait lists.
And after all that, the bottleneck isn't the doctor. It's the physical absence of the drug. You're holding a formalized medical contract, your prescription, that says you need this to function, and the system is just defaulting on that contract.
It's like finally getting the golden ticket to the chocolate factory after years of searching. But when you show up at the gates, the factory has just been dismantled. You did everything right, but the reward is just gone.
That's a great way to put it. And to really understand why the factory is dismantled, why the system broke, we have to look at the exact medication the text mentions.
Right, the drug itself. The article identifies it as Concerta, which is widely used for ADHD. And it explicitly gives the generic name, which is a bit of a mouthful: methylphenidate hydrochloride extended release tablets.
Yes, and that phrase, extended release, that is the absolute key to this entire logistical nightmare.
Okay, break that down for me, because to me, a pill is a pill, you know?
Right. Most people think you just mix a vat of chemicals, press it into a shape, and you're done. Like a standard headache pill.
Yeah, exactly. You swallow it, it dissolves, boom, your headache is gone.
And that's an immediate release mechanism. It hits your bloodstream all at once. But for ADHD, if you have a massive spike of a stimulant and then a rapid crash 3 hours later, that is incredibly disruptive to your executive function.
Oh, I can imagine. You'd be hyper-focused and then completely exhausted by lunchtime.
Exactly. So you want a steady, plateaued release that lasts 10 to 12 hours. And the technology they use in Concerta to achieve this is wild. It's not really a pill in the traditional sense. It's a microscopic mechanical pump.
Wait, really? A mechanical pump? In a pill?
Yes, it's called an oro system, an osmotic release oral system. It has a rigid outer shell that actually does not dissolve in your stomach.
Okay, so how does the medicine get out?
Inside this rigid shell, there's a layer of the active drug and another layer made of a special polymer, like a microscopic sponge. As the pill sits in your digestive tract, water slowly seeps through the shell into that sponge.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the sponge expands.
Right. And because the outer shell is rigid, the expanding sponge has nowhere to go but to push against the drug layer.
So it literally squishes the medicine out.
Precisely.
Huh.
And the medicine gets pushed out of a microscopic hole that was literally laser drilled into the shell during manufacturing. It pushes it out at a highly controlled, precise rate all day long.
That is insane. It's literally microscopic hydraulics happening in your stomach.
It is. But think about what that means for the supply chain. You can't just spin up a new factory overnight to make these.
Oh, I see. Because you need, like, specialized lasers and a precision coating machine.
Exactly. You need multi-stage manufacturing lines, industrial lasers calibrated to drill a microscopic hole without damaging the drug inside. If that hole is too big, the patient gets all the medicine at once, which is incredibly dangerous.
So the manufacturing process is super rigid. It's not an easy fix at all.
Not at all. It takes years and millions of dollars to build a new RO's manufacturing line.
But wait, if this is widely used, as the text says, shouldn't the pharmaceutical companies have massive stockpiles? Or at least accurate forecasts? I mean, they know how many people have ADHD.
Well, they thought they knew. And the article actually provides the answer to that exact question right in its heading. It says the background for this shortage is the rapid increase in adult ADHD.
Ah, okay. The sudden surge in adult diagnoses.
Right. The shortage isn't happening because the factories broke. It's happening because the demand curve fundamentally changed overnight.
Let's really analyze that because that's fascinating. Society is finally getting better at recognizing ADHD in adults, right? People who suffered in silence during childhood are finally getting answers.
Yeah, it's a huge positive sociological shift. We're seeing a massive wave of destigmatization. People are learning about executive dysfunction, time blindness, and they're realizing, hey, that's me.
And so they go get diagnosed, which is great.
Right.
But it sounds like that positive shift totally crashed the supply chain.
Completely. Because the pharmaceutical forecasting models were built on historical data.
Right.
And historically, ADHD was seen mostly as a childhood disorder.
Right, the classic hyperactive little boy stereotype.
Exactly. So the factories built their very expensive, very rigid laser drilling capacity to match a slow, predictable trend line of pediatric growth. They were practically blind to the adults.
It's like a secret indie band suddenly going viral on social media, right?
Yeah.
They booked a venue for 100 people, but overnight, 10,000 people show up. The band is the same, the music is the same, but the physical infrastructure to hold the crowd just collapses.
That is a perfect analogy. The pharmaceutical companies are running the espresso machine at max capacity, but the line out the door just grew tenfold.
So we are essentially victims of our own success in mental health awareness. But wait, if a rapid increase in diagnoses causes a nationwide shortage, how does that actually play out on the ground? How do they handle it?
Well, the article explicitly names the mechanism. It notes that shipment adjustments are taking place, resulting in shortages at medical institutions and pharmacies.
Okay, shipment adjustments. That sounds so corporate and polite.
It does, doesn't it? The Japanese term is shuketsusei. It sounds like a minor logistical tweak, but in reality, it's a euphemism for rationing.
Rationing. Wow. Let's walk through the actual timeline of how that happens, like chronologically, from the moment they realize there's a spike.
Sure. So chronologically, the first thing that happens is the manufacturer sees a huge spike in orders from national wholesalers. They look at their laser drilling factory and realize, uh-oh, we can't make enough, so they initiate the shipment adjustments.
And how do they decide who gets what?
Usually it's a tiered, historically based allocation model.
Sure.
They tell a wholesaler, look, historically you bought 10% of our output, so you only get 10% of whatever we have available right now.
But the available stock is way lower than the new demand, so the wholesaler is already short.
Right. And then the wholesaler does the exact same thing to the regional pharmacy chains. They ration them based on past history.
Which hurts the pharmacies that are seeing the most new patients.
Exactly. The system punishes the pharmacies trying to serve the influx. And ultimately, it trickles all the way down to the local pharmacist. They get, say, 5 bottles in their safe, but they have 20 patients with valid prescriptions coming in.
So the system forces the pharmacist to be the bad guy and make these impossible rationing decisions.
Yes. And the text is very blunt about the end result. It explicitly states the risk is that treatment cannot be continued.
Treatment cannot be continued. That is so stark.
It is. It's a hard stop. And we really need to understand the clinical reality of that for an ADHD patient, because abrupt cessation of a stimulant like this is no joke.
Let's talk about that. What happens to the patient's brain when this extended release medication is just cut off?
Well, their brain chemistry is adapted to the medication. The Concerta has been maintaining adequate levels of dopamine and norepinephrine, allowing their prefrontal cortex to function normally.
It's basically the neurological scaffolding they use to interact with modern life.
Exactly. And when you just yank that scaffolding away, there's often a severe rebound effect. It's not just going back to baseline. You see acute lethargy, massive brain fog, and a spike in executive dysfunction.
Oh, man. So suddenly, a person who was thriving, doing great at work, keeping up with relationships, paying bills on time, they're just thrust right back into chaos.
Yes, it disrupts their entire life stability. And it's terrifying because they know they have the capability to function, but the physical tool they need is just denied to them by a supply chain failure.
Imagine you wear glasses to see, right? And one day, society just runs out of glass. And everyone's like, sorry, there's a shipment adjustment. You just have to squint your way through traffic from now on.
And with psychiatric medication, there's no easy alternative. You can't just tape an old pair of glasses together.
But wait, if there's no medication, what are doctors supposed to do? I mean, what are the points doctors should be communicating to patients right now?
That's a huge issue. Doctors are really in a tough spot. The main thing they have to communicate is managed expectations. They have to warn patients up front, hey, I'm writing this prescription, but you might have to call 10 different pharmacies to find it.
So they have to prepare them for the rationing.
Yes. And they also need to communicate about what happens if they run out. They might need to discuss rationing their own doses, which doctors hate doing, like telling a patient to skip medication on weekends just to make it through the work week.
Wow, that's just a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Are there any non-medication treatment options they can offer in the meantime, just to help them cope?
There are, though it's important to be clear that they aren't a direct replacement for the chemical scaffolding. But doctors will strongly suggest leaning into behavioral scaffolding.
Like what? Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes. CBT specifically tailored for ADHD can be really helpful. It teaches coping mechanisms for time blindness and emotional regulation. Also, environmental scaffolding, using external tools like strict alarms, visual planners, and asking family or colleagues for accountability support.
But again, if your brain literally lacks the dopamine to execute the tasks on your visual planner, that's incredibly frustrating.
It is. It's asking someone with a broken leg to just walk really carefully while they wait for a cast. It helps a little, but it doesn't fix the core deficit.
So zooming out a bit, what is the societal impact of this? Because if we have hundreds of thousands of adults suddenly unable to get their medication, that has to ripple out, right?
Oh, massively. The societal impact is profound. We're talking about a significant loss of productivity in the workforce. We're talking about increased strain on interpersonal relationships, which leads to higher stress.
Not to mention the strain on mental health resources when these patients spiral into secondary depression or anxiety because their lives are falling apart.
Exactly. The healthcare system ends up paying for the fallout of the supply chain failure. It's a massive drag on society as a whole.
So looking forward, what is the future outlook for this situation? Do we see an end in sight?
Honestly, based on how these supply chains work, the outlook is a slow recovery. Because again, it takes years to build those specialized laser drilling factories.
Right, you can't just snap your fingers and make a new Oros machine.
No. So until the physical manufacturing capacity catches up to the new sociological baseline, we are likely going to see rolling shortages and continued shipment adjustments. It's a long road ahead.
Wow. So we started this deep dive looking at a broken promise at the pharmacy counter, right? And we discovered that the missing drug uses this incredibly complex laser-drilled osmotic release system.
Which is fascinating, but incredibly fragile.
Exactly. And we learned that this positive surge in adult ADHD awareness essentially overwhelmed that fragile supply chain, leading to these dangerous treatment interruptions. It's a huge systemic failure.
And really, even if you don't take Concerta or you don't have ADHD, this deep dive reveals something fundamental about the medical infrastructure we all rely on. It's highly optimized for the status quo.
Right. It's sufficient, but it's brittle.
Exactly. A sudden shift in societal awareness of any condition could theoretically empty the shelves of its corresponding treatment tomorrow.
And that is the final thought I really want to leave you with today. If our societal awareness of mental health continues to grow, which, we all want it to, how do we ensure our physical medical infrastructure can keep pace?
It's the critical question.
What good is destigmatizing a condition if the diagnosis only leads to an empty pharmacy bag? So next time you see a headline about a rising health trend, ask yourself, is the culture ready to heal? Yes. But is the supply chain actually ready for it?